You mentioned Spracklen there. Of course, we were both coached by Spracklen.
Yes. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry.
And he's a fascinating guy, isn't he? I mean, I think I was reading some of your stories in the book of which would really, I suppose it's designed to piss you off, where he kind of goes, you know, why don't you guys go into
you, old man?
that was me. I was very argumentative, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I've mellowed now, but he's got this amazing combination of winding you up and then insight that he gives you in terms of, you know, the trainer.
No, he has a unique psychology, and it's interesting now that I'm in, you know, the world of corporate leadership and that kind of thing. There's two types of leaders, and you'll have a results-driven leader, or you'll have a dedication-driven leader. And so I'd say Spracklen was able to drive results like no other that I've seen. You know, as far as dedication, there were a lot of people who he would turn off, and he would not be able to navigate the politics of the national sports organization, or his colleagues that he's coaching beside, or the athletes who didn't make the boat, and even some of the athletes in the boat. There was conflict between it. But as far as results, being able to drive results, he's among the top in the world of getting the most out of people, simply because of this. And I think a lot of it came from, you know, as I think about it, his own deeper insecurities that he might have as an individual. Yeah, that drives, so, okay, if I have these insecurities, I need to prove myself to the broader world. And if my athletes don't perform, then that means I, as a coach, am worthless, so I don't have that level of meaning. So that created a strong drive. And, and playing off of his strong drive, he was able to, find the buttons to push within his athletes and get them going. Classic Spracklen story. Athletes come into the training center. He's got the open training center philosophy. Anyone can come train with me. They're behind the pack. If they're behind the pack, he'll wake you down in his motorboat. Just stay with the pack or get waked down. That's okay. And then afterwards, if anyone wants coaching, come up to me and ask me. And so there are these two athletes, Rob and Matt. And Matt was this big, big guy, close to 2 meters tall, 100 kilograms, perfect kind of rower. Rob was this little guy, he's maybe 180 centimeters, 80 kilograms. And so Rob's in the bow, Matt's in the stern. They say, Spracklen, can you coach us? Typical Spracklen. Okay, I want you to sit up tall and push your legs down hard. And they sit up, they do it. The little guy in the bow is pulling the boat around. Spracklen's getting kind of pissed off. So he's like, no, I want you to sit up tall and push your legs down harder. He does that again. Bows, he still pulls them around, getting angry. Comes up to them, is like, if you want to pull, and you want to pull hard, you're welcome at this center. But right now, you're pulling like a woman. No? No, I've seen some very strong women. You are pulling like a little girl.
Oh.
He's off from the boat.
You've got the accent there.
And so the big guy, 2 practices later, he's gone. And so to a certain extent, he believed that unless you're willing to go through the fire in the training center, and unless you could endure the fire, there's no way you could endure, the furnace of international competition, let alone the red hot magma of the Olympic Games. So he was able to create an element of stress, and then he was also able to create this this competitive environment is all about creating the environment, and within these environment you have envy, insecurity, greed, this idea of scarcity. All of these deeper insecurities are fostered within you, especially as a young man, a young athlete, to want to rise up the hierarchy, to prove yourself, to gain the blessing of the coach, to win and beyond that, just simply to win the races. But all of these character traits and all of these drivers were I wouldn't say they were encouraged, but they were certainly seeded so that both the best and worst parts of our human nature were harnessed to drive the results.
Yeah, I'd say that was, I'd say that was my experience too. Let me ask you about Canadian sweet rowing now. What's happened to it?
I'm curious to see what has happened to it. They had Dick Tonks come into the play, and he's training the guys. We had an Irish coach for a while, Martin McElroy, and he had very limited success with the men, and the way our funding model works is we have this funding model called Own the Podium. So results are valued and favored. So if you get more results at the Olympic level, you'll get more funding. And so we were able, ironically, when Spracklen came back to Canada, he was able to establish a system and a network to push up a lot of us athletes, and we started to win races internationally for the first time since I guess he was back in Canada.
Yeah.
And because of his poor politics, his inability to manage himself in front of his colleagues or the administrators, he left a lot of bad blood. And afterwards, there was some internal politics where, this is what I see within high performance rowing. I can take a step back. You have success, and a coach drives success. Athletes are successful under this coach. The successful athletes leave. The athletes who haven't fulfilled their desires or had the full level of success, they stick around. And they never really quite succeeded under that past coach. So then they say, it must be that coach. It's not me. I need another system. And so they start fighting against that coach to create another system, that because it obviously didn't work with that coach, so they need to find something else, but that creates conflict. Administrators start seeing this conflict and start like, how do I deal with this? And Spracklen, very unable to deal with that kind of conflict. Do you want to win? You obviously don't want to win. If you don't want to win, don't support me. Don't give me the money. Like that kind of off. And and so there was internal conflict, and we had some other coaches who had limited success with athletes, and so Terry Paul who's an old coxswain, has had some success, but nothing to stand on top of the mountain and shout about. And then as a coach, and then Martin McElroy had limited success, so he was pushed on. They brought in Dick Tonks, who was able to train the guys and push them to the limit that they were familiar with. But I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, because they've had limited success internationally. So we'll see if the volume that Dick Tonks is prescribing will drive that level. They decided to disband the 8. This was one of the.
Oh, really?
They disbanded the 8. They decided to focus on smaller boats, especially when Martin came in. Because of the funding model, they said, well, 1 gold medal in the 8 is worth the same as 1 gold medal in the pair. Yeah. So if we look at that 8, and if Jake and Kyle won the pair, and then we put some guys in the 4 and they medaled in the 4, we'd have had way more money having the pair in the 4 versus just the 8. So let's get small boats going so that we can win more medals, and we'll get more money. And this is how the system, this is how the administrators were working with the system, as I understand it. So they went for the smaller boat focus, but weren't able to achieve the results that they wanted. And so, the mistake that I saw was poor succession planning. Taking the legacy of Spracklen and the energy of him, in spite of his black marks as as a coach and an individual and as a politician, find a way to work with him to keep that legacy alive and keep some of the top athletes engaged in the sport so that you can continue the success over time. And again, there were many athletes in that 8 who could have stuck around for another quadrennial. It was an attractive enough proposition, but it wasn't. So I think that also came into play, is just the support from the support from financial support, I suppose. As far as how will the Canadians do in the sweep, I think the women will have a good showing. I don't know. I'm not as close with them. I don't know as much as what they'll be doing. I think the men will, they have the physiology. I see the erg scores that they're pushing through in like the 540s for 2Ks, which is mind blowing when I think of that. So they have the physiology. It's the question if they can pull it together for the race, for racing.
Adam, we haven't talked yet about Oarboard, which looks an amazing piece of kit. I don't know if you can describe it, but people have asked, is it meant for just plain paddle? Can you train on it? Is it meant can it surf?
Yeah, well, so the Oarboard is a great piece of equipment, and I'm going to say it is not a racing shell. So if you want the feeling of a push and a glide, you'll get less of that in the Oarboard than you would in a racing shell. But the beauty, where I fell in love with the Oarboard was when I got into beer league style rowing, adventure style rowing. When I started to have children, I wanted to share the sport I loved with my children. I wanted to take them out into the wilderness, go row to a remote beach on an island, catch some crabs, have a fire, cook the crabs on the beach, that kind of experience. So that's what the Oarboard is for. So where I've had a lot of fun with the Oarboard, I'll describe it. You take an inflatable stand-up paddleboard, an inflatable SUP, and on top of it you strap with these seatbelt type straps a carriage unit. And the carriage unit sits down. It has a fixed seat and a sliding rigger. And the sliding rigger is unique in that it does not have wheels. It has frictionless plastic. So it's very rugged. It's very resilient. It's very strong. And as well, the inflatable SUP can collapse up and go on a bag on your back. And the Oarboard unit collapses down into another bag that you can drag behind you. So if people want to look it up, Oarboard or oarboard.com. And on top of that, because of the transportability, we actually designed, as far as I can tell, the world's first 2-part carbon fiber oars. So, like sculling oars that have little clips in them. Pull them apart. I'm not kidding at all. It blew my mind when I first saw it. Our inventor Harold Allen, he's a genius. He has an old Finn from a bunch of Finn immigrants up on the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia, and just put them together, click, and again, when you travel internationally with oars, normally you have to put them in the special cargo hold, special on the airplane. With this, you can take, and this is what I did. A year or two ago, I went with my family to Hawaii, went to Maui, and I took the Oarboard SUP on my back, the unit, a wheel, put it in the cargo hold, took it to Maui. We're staying in this beach resort for a few weeks, and there's a crater that's maybe 15 kilometers off the shore. So I watch out for the right weather window, inflate the SUP, strap everything on, put my adventure bag on, get up at daybreak, launch, row out to the crater, and then I can go, and as I'm rowing out, there's the whales are migrating through. So you have these big whales coming by, blow holes and everything. So that's beautiful. And then you get to the crater, and there's I brought my snorkeling gear. So I anchor the boat, and then I'm swimming and I'm snorkeling with these beautiful tropical fish on a rowboat, that I brought with me on my airplane. And there's no rowing clubs in the area. So that's, to me, that's the magic of the Oarboard, is the adventure component. So you can grace virgin waters with your oars, and start clicking them off and saying, hey, I rode here, I rode there. You don't have we have people who live in condominiums that are by the water, and they can store them in their closet and bring it down, and so that it makes it accessible. You can have a tiny little car and throw the equipment in the back of your car, and then drive your little Peugeot to the body of water and go rowing. And where we have a lot of people who enjoy it recreationally, and again, if you have a property that's close to the water, we have a lot of people who are, a lot of our clients are over 40. They've maybe touched rowing a little bit. They're less elite rowers, but more people who are interested in it. Or you have people who are just fitness oriented. They spend a lot of time on the ergometer, the rowing machine. They've been at the gym, and they're looking, I'm interested in this rowing thing. And this is the perfect sort of piece of equipment for them to get out and experience the water, and to gain a level of fitness, on the water. So stable platform, sliding rigger has an interesting. And I wasn't actually expecting this. This was a surprise after we built the design and we put it out there. Was that it was actually quite useful for teaching juniors or novices how to row. Because of the sliding rigger, all of a sudden the focus goes right down to the legs. Yeah. Whereas when you're on a sliding seat, you're thinking about your upper body. Yeah. With the sliding rigger, you're seeing that you're looking at your legs coming towards you. Like, hey, look at your legs. Push your legs away from you. And so the leg focus comes a lot quicker on this. So it's very balanced. Another thing we found, there's a club in England that purchased a bunch of them, the Weybridge Rowing Club.
Oh, just down the road from me. I will go there and look.
Yeah, go there, look, ask them to try one out, and they definitely let you try one out. They're fun. It's really fun, even just to try a sliding rigger if you've not tried a sliding rigger. And the other thing was that they found was from a learn to row perspective. If you're a club and you're onboarding new members, you usually have to put them through a 6-week, 3 times a week program where you're rowing in a quad boat or something like that to gain the technical proficiency. But you then lose out on a lot of membership that might just want to show up once a week, or life gets in the way because you've got, job, kids, mortgage, life gets in the way, right? And what they found is that they can take these new masters style rowers, throw them on the Oarboard, and because it's so stable and because the skill acquisition curve is really quick, they can go and they can safely row around, and they can take a longer period of time to bring them on board. And as they gain a sense of what the sport is, then eventually they can plan and get into a learn to row and push them into the racing shells. Or sometimes they just want to stay on the platform because that's the type of exercise they're looking for. Yeah. So it's the broader vision of this product is to expand the base of the pyramid, if you want to call it. You get more bums in the seat, more people rowing. And if you look back historically, why was rowing so popular at the turn of the 19th century, from 1899, 1900? Why was rowing so popular? Because everyone rowed. If you had to do anything on the water, there was no outboard motors. You had your Whitehall, and you're loading up with lumber, and you're going down the river, and everyone rowed. So it was kind of neat to see these people, the racers race, and the professionals race, and the amateurs race. But these days, everyone's playing video games, so gotta get more bums in seats. Yeah, that's why I like the hydro, the video game rowing machine. If you've seen that one, where you sit on the rowing machine and you look at the people rowing. But again, it's about growing the base, fitness, fun, adventure. It's less about, it's not about going fast on these boats. It's about having an adventure. And again, surfing. You talked about surfing. When you think about waves in a flat water scull, it's terrifying. But on these boards, I'll take it out on a 16-foot, SUP, so big, and it's wide, and I can, you go, it's pretty fun. You can go faster than a racing 8 surfing down a wave on one of these things, which is pretty fun. You catch the waves, and you get out into waves maybe this big, meter and a half, as long as the period's long enough, and fool around. So that's pretty neat.
Adam, you've been great. We've been over an hour. I'd like to ask you, what's the next 5 or 10 years hold in store for you in terms of your work and your fitness and your family? Do you have are you someone that has that planned out, or do you?
Well, it's less. I wouldn't say I have it plan, not like a strategic plan of a of a corporation, but as far as a life plan, it's for me it is about fitness, fun, and adventure, I suppose. So I have my kids are young, 3, 7, and 10. In my backyard, I have something called a muscle garden. So I'm right here by it. So if you want to see it, I'll take you outside. So this is one of the things that I use to keep fit. Oh, here we are. So these are some big trees out back here, and so we've got chin-up bar. Climbing rope. Kids are there, and I've got some. What do we got here? Bricks, and we've got a tire that I can load up with weights and a pulley, and some discs, and I've got a few logs here, and so that's the kind of thing. A keg. Yeah, keg lifts are good. So that's one of the ways I like to stay fit. I got a group of guys. There's some old Olympic rowers in there too, where we run up and down a local mountain and then go cold water swimming. So I'm a big fan of that, cold water swimming. And I like the row perfect RP3. So I've got an RP3 rower. I find that's really good. It's easy on my back with the shock and the cage that moves. I really like that, and do a little bit of running. So it's it's just being fit for life. This idea of being just fit enough to enjoy things. I'll hop every once in a while when racing resumes post-COVID. I hop in a master's boat, but it's more about feeling the burn and earning a couple beers at the end, and talking about the old times, or talking about the young guys coming up, the new athletes, and trying to see who's racing, who's going fast. So I'd say from a fitness perspective, that's what I like to do. And then I try to climb a mountain every year. So on Vancouver Island, so something that takes a couple days, where we have a bit of exposure, clip in and lock in, that kind of thing. Then professionally, I've gotten more focused on executive coaching, executive development. I really enjoy that process, and I've seen the amount of value that I can deliver to people in organizations that they're leading a lot of people. So helping them with their strategic planning, with their leadership, with their teamwork, with even with health and wellness if that's needed. But usually we're focusing more on strategy, organizational politics. That's a big one. And and again, like we were talking about Mike Spracklen and his ability to create an environment that encouraged envy and scarcity, the feeling of scarcity to create, and even some greed to create drive. That the corporations are very, very good at that. And so to have support navigating that system, to be able to maximize earning power and to maximize your position and influence on the organization is really key. And it's I've been able to see some great results with that.
Right.
Which is satisfying. So I'd say that's where I'll be professionally. And personally, I'll be here. And I've got a contract with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I'll be covering the rowing in Canada as the commentator. The next
Olympics. Oh wow, that's fantastic.
So I've been watching a lot of Martin Cross tapes, getting some pointers on. Look at that! It's quite smacking right off the course. Yes, these boys, they are really grinding now, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's.
Are you going to do the Olympics commentary?
Yeah, the Olympic commentary. Yeah, in 2021. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Touch wood.
Yes. Well, what do you think? Do you think the Olympics are going to happen in 2021? Because you're close to that.
I was talking to a German lightweight, Jason Osborne, earlier this week, and he's pretty convinced that they're going to happen. He says he thinks the IOC have got some doses of vaccine for athletes. That's what he said. So he can't see any way they're not going to happen.
I guess the issue comes with when we start going down the rabbit hole of the Olympic movement, because it's been such a massive investment from an infrastructure perspective. You want to be able to welcome the tourists and welcome the supporters, but that might not be the case for this next Olympics. It might just be athletes and support staff, depending on how well we can distribute the vaccine.
You might be right. I hope I get a vaccine before I go. That's the only thing.
What we're doing here is we've got high-speed lines, so we're doing all the commentary in Toronto.
Yeah.
So we won't even be on the ground.
Yeah. Adam, before we end, just when can people get hold of the Audible version of your book? When's it coming out?
Well, we just submitted it to Audible late last week, and what Audible said is that they will have it out in 30 to 90 days.
Okay.
So it's just keep your eyes out for it. You can buy the paper copy, on Amazon as you'd like, but the Audible copy will be out in the new year. So I'm thinking end of January or February is most likely.
Perfect. Adam, you've been an absolute star. Got some fantastic stories. I feel I've only just scratched the surface of Adam Kreek, but that's been great.
Well, it's been nice to connect, and I know this is your show, and your job is to ask questions of people and not talk about yourself. So I'd appreciate. I'd love to at some point in the future get to know Martin a little bit better and learn more about you. But this has been nice, and kudos on getting the show so up and going, because I think it adds a lot of value to the rowing community. Any help you need with commentary, you know where I'm at. So I mean that in terms of we get quite a lot of information and stuff you may not get. So I could. You'll get. What do you mean by information? Because my ears are starting to perk up. All the competitive records of everyone in the race. Where they've been in previous World Cups or World Championships, ages, things like that. It's quite useful to have. Well, it might be nice even to. I will reach out, and if you're open to it, I'd love to even compare notes before the races and just talk about what you're thinking, what you're seeing, and even those conversations beforehand gives little snippets to throw into the commentary when we're on air, and makes it more interesting for the viewer. Love to do that.
Okay, we'll end the live broadcast, the live part of this broadcast now, Adam. So I'm going to say thanks and bye to everybody that's watching. Thanks for tuning in, and see you again sometime.
Bye-bye.